meeting to order. Good afternoon, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, and officers, representatives. Firstly, there's no recording as of yet, just in case you don't have. Just need to read out some housekeeping things. We're not expecting a fire alarm test anyway this afternoon, but if a fire alarm does go off, then obviously you're open to follow. And to meet outside in the car park. Obviously it's a building and there's no smoke allowed inside the building. Anybody who requires to use the toilet just outside the corridor will head downside. Anybody who wishes to leave the meeting for any reason, just to make sure that any recording equipment is switched off. Privacy and confidentiality, because the proceedings will be recorded to ensure that members don't have any on show or maybe private or confidential or maybe exempt. And have you agreed for the proceedings to be recorded? Does anybody have any objection? No. And I would ask that all mobile phones be switched off or silent. Everybody check the mobile phones. Okay. So I therefore Councillor Hamilton, and as this is the reconvened meeting, because as you know, the meeting we shall was adjourned because of the outcome of negotiation for the capacity dispute. So I need to open the adjourned meeting. That's the right term. So have we any apologies for absence? Any declarations of interest to any members or officers for any items on the agenda? No. There's no additional items which the chair is determined as to any matters of urgency. And we do have two items which are exempt, which will exclude the press and public. That's item related to item 5 and also there's item 6. Which, if anybody has any questions on item 5, then please let us know, because we'll have to, when we go through that item, we'll have to ask members of the public to leave. That's okay. For item 6, we'll have to ask that meeting. Okay, is that agreed? Okay. Just before we start the meeting, just to say we have received a message back from Councillor Tommy Newman, just to thank the authority for the gifts and the kind words that he's received following his retirement from the authority. So just make a note of that. And also, the good news is that our Chief, Dan Stevens, was...
So the proposal to merge the existing fire stations in Upton and West Kirby at a new station in what was the Library and Children's Centre site on Fredby Road in Greensby, and that would be as an alternative to the outright closure of West Kirby Fire Station. And members will recall approving the proposal subject to the outcomes of the public consultation at the authority meeting on the 2nd of October last year. In the same meeting, the members approved a detailed consultation process that mirrored that which we undertaken in Knowsley over last summer, which related to the proposal to close Huyton and Whiston and build a new station at Prescott. And that proposal was subsequently approved by members at the meeting on the 2nd of October. A total of 4 public meetings, 3 focus groups, 1 stakeholder meeting, 1 panel deliberative forum, and numerous meetings with individual interested parties were held over the 12-week period. And those details of those meetings are listed at paragraphs 18 to 24 on pages 31 and 32. The summary of the outcomes is listed at paragraphs 6 to 12 on page 30 with a detailed breakdown on an event-by-event basis at paragraphs 25 to 51, which runs from pages 32 to 38. That's supplemented by reports on the questionnaire and focus group, which are appendixes C and D, which run from pages 59 through to 99. Just to draw out specifically, paragraphs 47 through 49 detail the extensive correspondence that resulted from the process, and also the details of the freedom of information requests that were received Appendix E on pages 101 to 122 contains a summary of the questions which were asked during the public meetings and stakeholder engagement meeting, along with my responses to those questions. I am conscious that there is a significant amount of information for you to consider, so I'll focus specifically on the summary which is on page 30 within paragraphs 6 to 12. The deliberative focus groups in the forum all agreed that the principle of the merger was reasonable given the financial challenges faced by the authority. The stakeholder meeting, which consisted of representatives from the public and the private sector, were broadly supportive again of the merger proposal and recognised its reasonableness in the context of the financial challenges that we face. There was considerable opposition to the merger at the public meetings, particularly in relation to the use of the Flenby Road site. The two public meetings in Greasby were by far and away had the highest level of attendance, predominantly from people from Greasby, and it's fair to say that they were almost unanimously opposed to the merger proposal. The majority of the people that were objecting were of the view that we should close West Kirby outright in order to avoid them having to build a new station on the site of the library and the children's centre at Flenby Road. It would be fair to say that there were some, certainly people who attended the meetings and respondents to the survey, who did recognise the rationale and the operational logic to closing two stations to build a new station in a central location. It's the view of officers, certainly my view, that the majority of the respondents to the questionnaire, in particular the residents of Greasby, they were very focused on the site itself, and my view is that they, to a greater or lesser extent, disregarded the question they were being asked around the reasonableness of the merger from an operational response perspective, and instead focused solely on the fact that they just didn't want a fire station in what is viewed as a village. Once the library site had been withdrawn, we received some further responses to our questionnaire, all of which supported the merger principle, which I would suggest supports the view that I've previously articulated in relation to the view taken by, say, the Greasby residents. One point I would make is that the population of Greasby is around 9,000, and there was just under 1,000 responses to the survey, majority of which were opposed, and probably around maybe 800 attendees at the meetings in the two public meetings in Greasby, which of course represents less than 15% of the overall population of Greasby opposed to the merger. So you can take the view there that the majority of people either were not opposed or were supportive, or at worst were ambivalent. So I think there is, when you consider the context there, that's, as much as anything, this probably vindicates, in my view, why we use the focus groups and the deliberative forums, because what we get then is a more objective view and a more representative perspective, if you like, than you do necessarily by a meeting in a specific location that there is every likelihood that will be attended by people who, if they are organised, can mount a fairly significant opposition, which, whilst being very vocal and have high numbers of people, doesn't necessarily represent the majority. What I would say is that there was no significant opposition to the merger, and therefore the principle of closure in West Kirby or Upton. And in truth, the majority of the people that attended those meetings were actually from Greasby and were there to make their point again about closing the the Greasby location. That, of course, was withdrawn, which in one sense renders that particular question academic, because that's no longer an option available to the fire rescue authority. 1 point, or 2 points rather, that I would make is, first of all, the cost of the consultation process contained within paragraphs 56 to 58, which is on page 39. The overall cost was £18,744.50. What I would say is, the second point to make, that does not reflect in any way the amount of officer time that was expended during the consultation process. To be clear, members, it is a significant drain on officer time in these processes. Just thought it worth making that point for no other reason that there is a fair amount of work that arises from the managing austerity, and there are a number of measures that, as you're well aware, we need to undertake in order to deliver structural changes. You're going to consider one on the next agenda item. These things take time, and I just need to make that point now, because I will revisit that point on the next agenda item. The recommendation of the report is that members note the content and be mindful of the outcomes of this process, because of course that does have a bearing when considering the next agenda item. I'll pause at that point, Chair, and take any questions that members might have.
Members have any questions or comments, observations?
Thank you, Chair. First of all, can I just start off and thank the Chief and other officers who attended the consultation meetings. I went along to two of them. The first one was Greasby, which I couldn't get into because of the number of people there, but I did speak to a number of people outside, and I did attend the one at Woodchurch, and it is exactly as is written here. People really found considerable difficulty in separating what we as a fire authority were consulting on and what would be the next stage, which clearly is not within our remit, it's within the remit of Borough Council's planning issues. And they did have some difficulty with that. I was appalled at some of the comments which were being made outside by members of the public, which was quite disparaging, to say the least, towards the people of West Kirby and what their future safety may or may not be if in fact a merger didn't go ahead. But having said that, the Chief also mentioned the number of people who attended the Greasby meetings, and also the ratio of those to the population of Greasby. I parked right opposite where the meeting was being held, and it's fair to say it was early evening, and people living in those bungalows right opposite were sitting in their front rooms watching television. I don't know how many people obviously lived in their household, perhaps some of them went over to the meeting, but clearly those people right opposite, a very crude observation, you would say, that they weren't particularly concerned about it. Those that went to the meeting seemed particularly vocal, and quite clearly there's nothing the matter with that, but I'm not quite sure it was a true representation of the people of that area. I think now, obviously when we move on to the next item, that's where we have to make the decisions, but I, as a member for Wirral and a member of this fire authority, I'm extremely comfortable that we carried out a most comprehensive consultation exercise in every aspect of this, and I think everybody in Wirral had the opportunity to join in the consultation and to comment if need be. There was a clear willingness from officers of the fire authority to meet with members of the public, set up separate meetings with obviously stakeholder groups and people from the community there. There was also never any opposition to requests that I made for them to meet with ward councillors for the Greasby ward who were clearly concerned. Clearly there was meetings which were held with the local MP. So I think at the end of this, I don't think anybody could come forward and say that the fire authority, and particularly the fire service in Merseyside, didn't give people the full opportunity to engage in the process, and I'm pleased about that, particularly as we move into the decisions which we're going to have to take in item 5. So that's just an observation comment on that.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's important that we remind ourselves that the reason we're in this position is because of the millions of pounds that is being taken away from the budget of this authority, and that, you know, the numbers of engines that have now been lost, and of course we know about hundreds of staff, and it is important sometimes to remind people this, that you're not going to let it be Will or Liverpool about closing stations because it's something we want to do or we take great pleasure in doing. It is because we're trying to maintain a excellent service and continuous and excellent service within the remit of a budget that is being given to us. And every time we go through this kind of exercise, which is a very important exercise, and I think everybody knows, thank you, was said before about some of the remarks that people say about they really don't care about those down the road or at the other side is absolutely disgusting. We are looking at, and we hope that whatever decisions we come to, that we look at everybody. Never mind where they live, never mind what their political persuasion is, never mind how much they've got or what kind of house they live in, but that they're safe and secure. And it is something that, you know, we know we're taking on board at every occasion. Now, we have to now go on to the next stage because, as the Chief said and others have said, there is a sizable minority who are opposed to it. And so therefore, you know, we have to keep coming back to this, because my fear is that if we don't deal with this matter now, and everybody knows what the budget crisis means, that if it goes over deadlines, it has an impact. So if you're going to make a cut within the first 3 months of a budget, and it then takes you 12 months, then the cut is more severe. You know, it doesn't take to be Einstein to understand that. And so we're really pushed now to ensure that whatever changes we make are done in a relative manner, and instead of giving the time and effort that the Chief has put in and his colleagues on this one, well, we're yet again constrained. And you know, I think it would be hoped on all of us to make sure that we make sure that it's done and we take on board some of the things that are said, and it is noted the vocal minority should get their way.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This agenda item is moved on. We're all taking it off the table, has moved us on. But just to remind us where we are and why we are here, politically, and as an authority, I think everyone's agreed with this, in the first rounds of the austerity measures, we agreed that we would reduce the number of appliances without changing the numbers of fire stations. And that was our first plan. So the next plan was to assume low-hanging fruit, those amalgamations that could be achieved. And actually what we did in our budget a couple of years ago was assume that. We've already made these savings, in fact. We are funding from capital the additional staff that will have to be found by these changes. And it's changes in Knowsley and St Helens and the Wirral and Liverpool and it will move on. So these are we can't stand still on this. These are the consequences. And we can't just sort of say, okay, well never mind, we'll just move on to something else. We've already made these plans. We're sticking with our plan. Now, we take advice from officers as to where alternative locations may be. Things always change a little bit. But we can't stand still on this. It just has to move on. And as we know, there may well, as we had in our briefing day, there may well be more consequences if there's a continued drive to move the budget down further and further and further in future years.
I'll just bring your attention, because in the report it does suggest about the correspondence that we received. If any member wishes to look at correspondence, it's in the green folder, so all the letters that we received, they are there for anybody to see. And the report from the victim research was just sort of letters, not known the sort of term context of the report itself, but everybody received a copy there from the letters. Just to say, we always knew that it would be difficult to identify a suitable location within the for the availability of land and whatever. So I think this one has been a testing time. We've never really expected the responses that we've received and the tone of that, you know, the contents of that, which is obviously inappropriate to consider that. It's our role as the Merseyside Fire and Rescue Authority to obviously consider what the professional advice that we're given for the operation response to those particular areas. And that's our remit really. Some of the comments that was made uncalled for shouldn't have been made. People should reflect on some of the comments that have been made, especially for those people who are scared which would be directly affected if we didn't go ahead with the proposed measure in a suitable location. But we've done it. We've done extensive consultation, probably more than any other organisation that has done in the past. And our thanks go to all the officers and all our staff involved in preparing this and conducting and attending the public meetings. But as we said, we need to make a decision on this because it is because of the cuts that have been imposed on us, and we do need to move on. And item 5 obviously takes us to that next stage. But if we can approve the recommendation of the report is to not the report, and then we'll go on to item 5. So thanks, that agrees. Okay, then item 5 now is consideration of the next stage for the list.
Thanks, Chair. The purpose of this report is to advise members of the options which are open to the authority to make the changes to the operational response model which are going to be necessary to deliver the changes which are required of the further financial challenge that we face in 15-16. I will realise this is a potentially quite a complicated report. I'll try and take a little bit of time just to talk us through this. Members are well aware that you would have got from the Griesby site. I'm going to show you a couple of slides in a second which will in truth probably give you a better perspective than that which is contained within the appendices. I'm going to show you a slide of both locations and then a more broader, if you like, West Wirral slide. There are more incidents that occur on the Upton station area than on the West Kirby station area. The number of life risk incidents that occur don't differ substantially. The volume can be attributed to the number of secondary fires and the number of unwanted fire signals that occur at Arrow Park Hospital, predominantly. If you consider the number of fatalities that have occurred over the last 5 years, 2 accidental fire deaths and 1 RTC fatality on the Upton station area, 1 accidental fire death and 1 RTC fatality on the West Kirby station area. Neither station is busy. Right? They're both quiet, one is just less quiet than the other. The risk is broadly the same. The risk of an incident occurring is low, the severity is high. But the risk is the same on either area of life. Neither is that busy. If the authority were to approve the closure of West Kirby outright, we will increase response times onto the West Kirby station area. The average response will be around 8 minutes 43. It will add at least 2 minutes on to the response time that it would be if we pursued a merger. And it would add nearly 3 to 4 minutes on than what it is now, picking up from West Kirby. It is my professional view, therefore, that the merger is the right option. What I would ask, Chair, is can I just use the slide please? I just need to show you 2 slides and then I'll come back and what you see on this slide, members, is this is predominantly the Upton station area. With over on the west hand side of the slide, you can just see in the bottom left hand corner as you look, that is the beginning of the West Kirby station area. It's around if you like, the boundary between the 2 station areas is around here. That was that is the library site. That was the former site that was under consideration. The new piece of land which you see in Appendix A is here. So it is due north from the site that we considered previously, which is now no longer under consideration. The next slide is going to show you a broader West Wirral perspective, but Upton Fire Station is here. What you don't see here on this slide is the route into West Kirby and to Hoylake. Because of course Hoylake is part of the West Kirby station area. Probably in population terms makes up about half the population. It's about 12,000 in Hoylake, 12,000 in West Kirby. Overall it's about a 25,000 population in the West Kirby station area. This road here, Sorgo Massey Road, is a faster road than Frankby Road, which is why you can get into West Kirby more quickly from Sorgo Massey Road than you can from the Frankby Road site. But of course, because this is all this area here is greenbelt, we couldn't consider that as long as there was an alternative. That alternative now no longer exists. So the next slide, and I'll show you, there's only 2 slides, this last slide. This is West Wirral. So as you can see, Upton, the Greasby site, Sorgo Massey Road, West Kirby Fire Station, to give you a better perspective. The midpoint of the 2 station areas is here. That's 3 Lanes End. All the land in that area is in the greenbelt and in private ownership. The optimum location in truth would be about 200-300 metres further down what is Sorgo Massey Road to the roundabout. All of that land's in private ownership. There is no guarantee that the owner would sell that land to us. Wirral clearly, by making us aware of this land and in principle agreeing that this is something we could pursue, allows us to then consider that. I could be spending an awful long time, members, trying to pursue buying that land, and we may never achieve that. We do not have the time, based on the fact that the money effectively is taken out as of the 1st of April. We need to make the structural changes as of the 1st of April. Clearly we're not going to do that because this is going to take a lot of time. That site is not in the optimum location. The optimum location is 3 Lanes End. That, in my view, is as close to the optimum location that we are realistically going to get at a piece of land we can realistically expect to achieve, notwithstanding the planning issues which are beyond our gift, but which we can make, in my view, a very, very strong public safety argument around special circumstances. And just to conclude, that's where Hoylake is. Okay, so you appreciate from there to Hoylake, that's a longer run time than from Sorgo Massey Road, because there are other options in this the road network that allows you to get up to what is still part of the West Kirby station area. Ironically, it's going to take us longer to get to Greasby from Sorgo Massey than it will do from Upton. That's just one of those things. I'll pause at that point so you can consider that for yourselves, but that is a reality. And if I can share, I'll just conclude speaking to close then, members, there are 3 options that you need to consider today. The first is to close West Kirby outright, subject to a 6-week consultation process, and to relocate the fire engine at West Kirby to Upton to be crewed on a whole-time retained basis. The second option is to close West Kirby outright on the 1st of April, again subject to a 6-week consultation process, and relocate the fire station to Upton to be crewed whole-time retained, and then to direct me to try and secure an optimum location to effectively relocate Upton to. And the third option, the option that I'm recommending, is to defer the decision on the closure of West Kirby, which is where this option differs, if you like, from the previous option, to instruct officers to undertake a 12-week consultation process over the merger, which is the closure of Upton and West Kirby to build a new station at Sorgham Massey, which would involve the relocation of the fire appliance to be viewed on a whole-time retained basis. But to note that, given the fact that we are having to make the financial and therefore the structural changes in terms of we are not replacing people as they leave, to direct me to bring a report to the authority at the next authority meeting, which will explain to you the interim measures that I would take under delegated operational powers to maintain appliance availability as best as we were able to during any consultation process and during any future structural changes that needed to be made, i.e. submission of planning permission, build and so forth. My recommendation is that you approve the last option, that which I've just described now, for the reasons which are within the report and for the reasons which I think are well rehearsed now and you're well aware of. Apologies for taking a bit of time over this, Chair. I just thought it was important that members understood the options and the implications of course of that point into the questions.
Just before we go, just to let you know that the recommendation that I would propose to the authority is that we approve the that's what the Chief was suggesting. So that we defer the decision of the West Kirby proposal to just so you know that's what
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm absolutely delighted if that is what you're proposing, and I would have hoped that you would have done that we got in before I had the opportunity to, and I would have expected that as well. But having said that, I just wanted to make a couple of comments. I am still 100% convinced that a merger is the best possible option that we have as a fire and rescue authority in the circumstances we have, which for all the reasons regarding finance, the savings that we've had to make, without rehearsing all those again. I think we're extremely fortunate to be able to have the opportunity to at least pursue this other option on the Sorgham Massey site. I know that it's not going to be popular with particularly some of my colleagues in Wirral, but I think here as a fire authority, what I have to do as well in my mind is to say we have a piece of green belt land here. On the other hand, we have the safety of 26,000 people in the wider West Kirby, Mells area, which we can offer them the added safety. I know it's still a reduction in the response times, but at least the fire appliance would be able to get to them if we went along this option at 2 minutes, and 2 minutes is an awful long time if your life or your family or you're in a road traffic accident and you're in fear of life or death. So I think we have to be pragmatic about this, and I'm sure we're going to be, as the Chair suggested, the best possible option for the state today is to. The way of what we have, as I say, to repeat myself, on one hand we have a small piece of green belt land. Yes, it is designated green belt land. It's not a lush patch by any means. It's a piece of scrappy land, but nevertheless it's green belt land, and that will cause some opposition in Wirral, I'm sure, amongst colleagues excuse me, and members of the public. But weighing that up against the, as I say, the additional safety for that wider area of West Wirral, I don't really think that there's any choice in that, and I think it's the best possible option. It's unfortunate, again, I know, in one sense that we have to enter into a full consultation process, but again, I think, again, that's a sensible decision to take, because it makes sure that we're both embraces really, and that hopefully that we won't find ourselves in a judicial review, because that would just take us endlessly into future time. So I'd be pleased to support option 3A. That's what the Chair is proposing.
I would definitely agree with the Chief's recommendation and would concur with the Council of Members. But I would suggest also that we might have a word with the colleagues in West Wirral. There's an opportunity for them here to show some political leadership of the community to help them, I hate to say, get their priorities right for humanity's sake. to weigh up humanity against the scrap piece of green land is really not an option, is it really? It should be easy for people to make the right decision in that way. And I would suggest that there is an opportunity for politicians in this world to get their priorities right here for the sake of the residents that they represent.
Thank you. Any other comments? Sorry.
Thanks, Chair. Again, I'd like to say that I think we're going in the right direction here. And I speak as an environmental campaigner who spends an awful lot of my time trying to defend green belts and development. I've been doing that for weeks on end recently, not necessarily very successfully either. But that's a different story. What I'm concerned about here is though that I think I'm hearing a special circumstance, and life and limb clearly is a special circumstance. So I think that there is every reason for us to be able to put forward a credible argument for the use of this site, whereas the vast majority of the time my immediate reaction to building on Greenbelt would be no under any circumstances. But I think life and limb are special circumstances, so it's important.
Based on what's been said now, we've got anonymity about inequality between all the political parties saying that a piece of green land in itself shouldn't be protected, but that means there's a good use of it. What I'm concerned about is that, because it has to go from here, of course, not just to the local authorities, but it has to go to that little place down south, which is to make some funny decisions, and go to a fellow that even makes funny ones. And not be funny either. My concern is that we're going down the road. Is there any possibility that we can work things together rather than wait for something to happen? Some more planning, permission for the usage of the green belt, etc. And one can come with each other to ensure that at least when we get to the end of it, all the little ducks that are in that road we need to be knocked down. Because I'd hate for us to go through 3 months or 4 months and with colleagues from the will getting public opinion on their side for somebody to say, well, thank you very much, but no, it's a piece of green belt and you're not going to build on it. So is it possible to get sort of a nod and a wink before whilst this is going on?
Yeah, just to reassure Councillor Gladden, in the event that the authority approve this recommendation, as I've said previously, I have written already to the Chief Executive of Wirral to ask that they consider releasing the land to the authority, because clearly without that there is no proposal, and we will engage with our colleagues within Wirral in relation to planning issues and do as much as we possibly can. I think the point quite rightly advised by the clerk to the authority in relation to the determination, we were to submit a planning application prior to members having considered the outcomes of the public consultation, then what we don't want to do is to in any way be seen to predetermine the outcome. And I accept there's two views to be taken here, because if there is a train of thought that says, well, if you can't get the planning permission, then you don't have an option. It's no different in one sense than the transfer of the ownership of the land, because clearly if you don't have that, you don't have the option either. But I do believe that thus far, the consultation processes that we've undertaken, I believe, have been of an exemplar standard, and I do believe that that's something we need to continue to do. The reputation of the authority is very important to us all, and you can be judicially reviewed for a myriad of different reasons, and I just, on balance, believe that the most expeditious route to take in the circumstances is that which we're proposing, and it is very much on the basis of advice that we're being given from the clerk to the authority and others externally. So I do believe that we will move this forward as quickly as it can be done in circumstances which present the least risk to the authority.
I can come back to you. I understood that, and also trying to say something about planning it all, because that's an important issue that people are fully aware that a proper consultation happens. So the members of the planning committee take their views in hand when they make their final decision. What I was talking about is if we get to that stage and everybody is in agreement, it then has to go down to London. It has to go, to my knowledge, as far as I know, because it is a green belt, to get authority. Is it not possible for us, whilst this is going on, for at least then, for those organisations down there to be aware of what we're doing, and to know that we're not going to go through 3 or 4 months and then to just be KB'd again? I don't know if it is possible, I'm just asking for that.
I think
Because the Secretary of State made that decision.
just to have some reassurance, I think we're going to do all we can to try and expedite the programming process. Because of the delay, obviously it's going to have an impact on our budgets because it's going to fall beyond the deadline of what we were hoping to achieve the savings. So I think we'll do all we can to ensure that we can run this. But we have a statutory obligation to undertake the consultation process, and we've got to go in line with the consultation process, which anybody who's been a member of the panel knows how difficult that can be. But I think the first instance is for us to carry out our consultation process with the public, with the people from single massive roads and police being Upton and Westfield, to ensure that they're satisfied and they're reassured that for us this is the best operational location that's going to respond to any incident as quick as we possibly can. Because I know myself that the amount of sites that we looked at, we can prove special circumstances in this case, but it's if the Secretary of State takes that into consideration when he receives the information and the application on this, it could get called in. There's all kinds of things that could happen to delay this. And we want to make sure that we do it properly, do it right, and get it done as quickly as possible, without any difficulties. It won't come back to the authority for a decision until June, so we've got that time period anyway. If it goes beyond that, that's when it's really going to start being problematic. But at this moment in time, if we agree the proposals as recommended, part 3.3a, we can start. We're not going to start the consultation until the 2nd of March anyway. We need that lead-in period in order to advertise the fact that we're going to have public meetings and forums and everything to give people sufficient notice for them to come along and we give presentations and like some of the impact response times and everything like that. But I think what we're suggesting at the moment is the right way forward, and all we can do with conversations with others will take place.
Yes, thank you. I think, taking on what you just said there, I think if we politically, around this table, make a decision, effectively it's an in-principle decision, it relies upon we'll agree to sell us land and then go through the planning process. You can be assured that our officers will do what is right and what is proper without leading to a suggestion of predetermination in the background, dealing with Wirral, and I don't know what you can do with DCLG. They'll be going into Purder before long, and then they'll be going into Regnan between governments. That actually, it depends on whether they even want to call it in. We don't know that. So all we can do is we have to make the savings, we have to make the proper decisions from an operational point of view. That's what we're doing today. And then we will leave our officers to pursue all avenues without leading us into a predetermination.
Maybe we need to get that.
That's the other way of putting it.
Right.
Actually, I'd just like to move in progress on this. I think she was more or less outlined exactly what's needed. It's been supported unanimous by the CEO, but there's some people speaking that way to move progress. Thank you.
Okay, are we happy with that? Can we approve the
Yes.
recommendation?
Please.
Thank you very much. Okay, item 6, which is present items.